John Cogley. I'm owner of Daniel Smith, and today we're in the artist studio with Julie Karlsson. Julie is from Sweden. She lives on the second largest lake in Sweden, and her neighbor across the lake is Anders Anderson, who we did about 2 weeks ago. Julie, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to Sweden.
Thank you. The light looks really beautiful, and Julie is working out of her upstairs area. Like many of us, she's not able to go to her studio, so she's made a studio space, and she'll be showing us that, and also she'll be showing us the beautiful outside of her home, which is actually quite beautiful. Julie, with that, I'm gonna ask you, can you show us maybe some of your artwork, your studio space?
Well, right now you're in my living room. I'm not in my studio today. The Wi-Fi there is really, really bad. So I've moved a bunch of things upstairs and I'm painting there right now. My husband claims I move into every room of the house. So my studio is sort of the whole house plus my studio. But I've been working on a lot of odds and ends of things now while we've been at home. A lot of things that I have are half-finished demonstrations. I teach a lot. So I have piles of things that are half finished, and this has been a really good excuse for me to be able to dive into those and rework some things. And one of the things that I love about the products that you create are the grounds. And that's one of the things that I find that's really, really good to be able to use when I'm reworking a painting or trying to finish up something that I was working on before and lost interest in. It really, really helps. So the other day, I grabbed a painting that was half done and I worked on it again. There was no coffee cup from the beginning.
Awesome.
So I used the white ground and then I was able to paint the coffee cup, which is my mother's china. So that was kind of special for me too. I did it around Mother's Day. Actually, we haven't had Mother's Day here. It's coming up, but American Mother's Day. So, and I enjoy using the grounds a lot that way to take a second look at things that I'm not happy with or to be able to change things around. I have a painting that I'm working on right now. I'm going to just move this over here, I think. I have this painting here I'm working on at the moment. And it's more like it's turning out more like a mixed media piece. I do some mixed media as well. I'm using both the black ground that I've put on in the background, and I've also painted some of the white ground over that. And I haven't used the gold ground before, but I got a little bit of that into the leaves as well.
Interesting.
Normally, I like to use transparent watercolors, but the exception is when I use the grounds. And it's really, really nice to be able to use I like the lavender and the wisteria, and all the iridescent colors are just amazing. So what you can't probably see right now is the shimmer on this, but it's really, really fun. So what I'm going for is going to be the bee. It's going to be finished. I took a picture the other day of some of the flowers that we've got in our yard right now. And the bee is going to be the focus of this. And so the iridescent paints are going to be a really fun way to be able to make that stand out.
That's great.
So I've got, I'm working on roses today. Can you see that?
Oh, yes.
So I haven't gotten very far on that yet, but I've got a piece that I'm working on right now. And well, as you can see over here, I have a lot of odds and ends. I'm not disciplined enough to just work on one thing at a time. I seem to enjoy having semi-chaos. I like to go from thing to thing. And I like a variety of different subjects.
Very nice.
So this has given me a really fun chance to be able to jump into that pile that I think a lot of us as artists have. Things that are not finished or things that we're hoping to get to someday. One of the other things I've been doing too is I've been playing. That's one of the things I think is really important as an artist. I find I get into a rut really easily. And that's one of the things I really encourage my students to do, and I'd encourage anybody to play with things. The walnut ink that you make is also really fun. I do calligraphy as well, so I enjoy the ink for that. But it's great to play around with the paints. So I have a bottle, and I'm not finished yet, but I made a really fun little test piece here. I was using phthalo turquoise, the transparent ground, and the walnut ink. And I've been kind of layering them to see what would happen when I mix them all together. And I'm not finished yet, but it's really fun. So I'm thinking there's going to be something else coming up soon.
Oh, neat. That's very nice. When you paint, Julie, do you do a study before you paint, or you just paint what creatively in your mind, or something inspires you?
Yes, to all of the above. Sometimes I like to work on things like the piece that I just showed you with the black ground. That one I'm going to be doing again with all transparent watercolors, just to find out what happens. When I'm doing roses like this, I'll often do a lot of different roses, just to try out some of the different, I can get that closer, I guess, to try out some of the different colors, the different looks. I like sometimes to paint abstract. I can also enjoy painting really realistically. So that I find is really fun, to paint in a variety of different ways and see what comes out. And then I can make up my mind as to what I'm going to paint. But sometimes I'll just dive in. Sometimes I just know what I want to do, and then just dive into the painting itself.
Oh, very nice. And so I see you're working on many different paintings, many different styles. Is that normal for you?
It is. I'm afraid I'm a bit all over the place that way. In addition to doing watercolor while we've been home, I've been doing a lot of other things as well, including working with Tiffany glass, doing a little bit of acrylics. I've been cooking, I've been baking, I've been working in my garden a little bit. And so there are a lot of things. So I'm afraid I'm kind of all over the place. I love variety.
Right. And
I find it really inspiring too. I think there are a lot of things around us that all of a sudden you'll see and you'll think, oh, I got to paint that. So I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy too, about having a lot of interesting things around me, being inspired by things that are out in the garden or out around the lake. It's really fun.
So could you show us outside?
Sure. Let's see. I'm going to just turn us around here. I also have a lot of houseplants. I'm kind of bad that way, but I love flowers. It's just so much fun. Okay, if I lose you, let me know. So here's our lake. It's gorgeous. The sun was really shining earlier. We get some amazing sunrises about around 4:30 a.m. right now. Can also show you our tulips that are in bloom. We've got lots and lots of flowering fruit trees around too.
That's a nice big yard.
We really love it. We're really fortunate. I've got all sorts of fun things I can do without ever having to leave home. So it hasn't been a hardship to have to stay at home a bit.
Wow. And so when you're using brushes, for example, can you tell us about the types of brushes you use?
Well, I enjoy using a lot of different brushes. I've got, let me see if I can show you some of them here. I do like using natural hair brushes. I really like the fact that they hold a lot of water. They've got a great tip. I've got a mixed natural hair brush here that I really like using. I use some synthetics as well. I have a feeling I use my brushes really poorly because I find that the tips, I destroy the tips right away. So I enjoy using them, and I buy them all the time, and my grandchildren are very grateful for the paintbrushes that I ruin because they get new ones. So I use a real variety of different brushes. I also like the flat ones. I scrub a lot with them. They're wonderful when you're doing straight things like buildings, for example. So yeah, I like a lot of different brushes.
Oh, very nice. And what type of paint do you like best? Granulating paints, transparent? Um,
I like the granulating paints. I think you know that about me, John, that I love the Primitex. I'm still amazed. I feel like a little kid a lot around those Primitex paints because they're magic. There's just no other way to describe them. I love the fact that you can use a rock. I've always been attracted to beautiful rocks. Both my parents when I was growing up and my husband have carried around literally tons of rocks for me, and whenever we've moved, the rocks go with me. And the fact that you can use great rocks to paint is, I can't get over it. I just think that is so cool. I really, really like that. And the granulation is magic. I just think it literally makes paintings paint themselves. I've got one here I want to show you. I've used it actually a lot. I'm going to just turn this around again. I have a painting here that is painted with blue apatite and hematite.
yes.
It's supposed to be a water scene, in case you can't see.
Yeah, yes.
And it's only blue apatite and hematite.
Wow.
And I just think the granulation is so much fun. I mean, can you see?
Yes. Yep.
I just find that so fascinating that it can do that. The painting here behind me as well, it's framed, it's a little bit bigger. It's just using the Primitex. I don't know if you can see it very well here.
Yep, we still see the granulation. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the blue is azurite, which unfortunately isn't around anymore.
No.
So that's absolutely one of my favorites. But the first paints that I bought were granulating paints. I bought blue apatite, and I bought green apatite, and I bought Cascade Green as well, which I was so disappointed with. Okay, I have to back up. I received a book. I worked together with Vesta's Art Supply here in Jönköping a lot. And they gave me this neat book one year for Christmas. And there was a painting I was absolutely amazed over because there were granulating paints. I'd never heard of that. I'd been painting for years, and I had no idea that anything other than maybe a little ultramarine or Mars black could do anything like that. And I looked in the back of the book, and there was this brand of paint I've never heard of called Daniel Smith paints. And lo and behold, they were made in Seattle, where I grew up and where I often go back at that time, where my parents were living. So the next time I went to the store in Bellevue. Is that right?
Bellevue, Seattle.
And I think Catherine was managing the store. She was in the store then. So I met Catherine then. I'm not even sure she remembers that. And I thought I've got to try some of these paints. Green was always a real problem for me because you can mix a lot of really nice greens, but right out of a tube, most of the stuff I was trying basically looked like toxic waste. So I was really interested in finding some fun greens, and green apatite was amazing. That just blew me away, that one tube of paint could offer that much. So I got Cascade Green as well. And I started painting with it. And I was so blown away with the blue apatite and the green apatite. And I thought, oh, Cascade, that's going to be great. So I got out my paints and I started, and I saw the color and I thought, oh, yuck, it's just another icky green. So to comfort myself, to make up for this disappointing paint, I'd carted all the way home from the States back to Sweden, made myself a big cup of coffee, came back to my painting, and it looked like someone else, while I was away making my coffee, had gotten their hands on my painting and done something amazing with it, because all of a sudden there were these blues and these greens and these amazing varieties of the color. And the one thing I would really suggest to anybody using the granulating paints at all, but the Primitex as well, and absolutely Cascade, is lots and lots and lots of water, and then a little bit of patience, and some very, very rough paper. So I have to show you this painting. We have, spring is one of those wonderful times here in Sweden after a long, dark winter. And this painting is done after a picture that I took in the spring with the little white wooden anemones that we have. It's done with only Cascade green.
Awesome.
So the blue in the sky is one of those things that I think is really fun. The blue floats. So if you use a lot of water after your green settles, you can actually maneuver your paper and get the blue to float out of that. So it's only Cascade green.
Oh, that is
so I no longer think it's a yucky paint.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a co-precipitated pigment. So while it's listed chemically as one pigment, they break apart. As you say, the more water you add, the more they break apart, and you get the different shades of that color, which is pretty amazing.
It is so fun. I love all of the ones, well, the undersea green, moon glow, imperial purple, rose of ultramarine. There's so many, I mean, the lunar blue, and yeah, there's so many fun paints. It's worse than putting me in a candy store or chocolate store and telling me to choose one or two. You want them all.
I like that. So what are you working on right now? You're working on the stuff that we see behind you, the honeybee.
I'm working on the honeybee. I've got some roses. I've also got a few other things. One of the things that I like to do is to change my palette each year. I find that it's really easy to get into a rut. I have a lot of go-to mixes like cobalt blue, quinacridone rose. I put them together in my palette in one little spot because I mix those together in different quantities so much. It's basically all of our wildflowers in Sweden can be painted with that combination. And I find it's really easy for me then to just go to those colors that I'm used to using, that I like using. So I'm trying to mix it up. So every year, or every term even, I try to add one different color into my palette. And this year it's the phthalo blue or phthalo blue turquoise that you just came out with.
Yes.
I don't use a lot of the phthalo blue or the phthalo colors because I find them really, really strong. They've got such strong personalities. Mm-hmm. And I love their transparency, but I find that they just adhere to the paper so much I can't move them around as much as I'd like. But I think that one's the exception. It's a lot more forgiving. It's just a luscious color. It's really fun and it's great to mix with. So right now that's in my summer palette.
Awesome. Very cool. Mm-hmm. So Julie, I know you teach, you've been an artist for a long time. Is there a tip or technique you can share with the people watching?
I think basically play. Let yourself play. Don't take things too seriously all the time. Give yourself a chance to use the backside of a piece of paper and not worry about what happens. Use a lot of rough paper, use a lot of water, especially with, like I said, the granulating paints. I find that really, really, really fun, just to let the paint have its own way and see what happens. So that's one of the fun things. Try the grounds. If you haven't tried the grounds, you can do so many fun things with them. I have to show you, I have a go bag. So when we're heading out somewhere, I can take it with me. And if I have time to paint, I paint. If I don't, I've still got it with me. And one of the things that I did was I painted the top of a little tin that I had. And I used the white ground, painted something, sprayed it with a shot of clear acrylic spray to make it waterproof. And then I just have a bunch of odds and ends of my little favorites with me. I cut off, I don't know if that's sacrilegious or not, but I cut up my paintbrushes. So I cut off a paintbrush. It works great. I took the stub of a little pen, and I've got a little pencil, and I've got a little bit of my kneadable eraser on there. Also keeps it from falling when I've got it on the table. And I can basically paint anywhere. I love that. So think about a way to take your paints with you. I paint on the airplane a lot when I fly. And I find having just a little set like this is so helpful, and maybe a water brush. It's just really, really fun to be able to take the time to paint anywhere.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So today we've been with Julie Karlsson from Sweden, the brand ambassadors for Daniel Smith. Thank you so very much for taking your time with us today. And I wish you family health, and look forward to seeing you in person when the pandemic is over.
Thank you, John. I can't wait.
Thank you, Julie.
Bye.